Suez Canal. Stretching 193 kilometers through Egypt, the Suez Canal connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, creating a direct maritime shortcut between Europe and Asia. Before it was built, ships had to round Africa's Cape of Good Hope, an extra 7,000 kilometers of sailing. Today, roughly 12 to 15% of all global trade by value, including 30% of global container traffic, transits the canal each year. In March 2021, the world saw what happens when this passage stops. The massive Ever Given container ship ran aground, blocking the canal for 6 days. Over 400 vessels were stranded, costing an estimated $9 billion in trade per day. That single stuck ship froze a twelfth of global trade, a reminder that one tight canal can hold the world economy hostage. Next, Panama Canal. Across the globe in Central America, the Panama Canal slices through the isthmus connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Opened in 1914, it saves ships nearly 13,000 kilometers that they'd otherwise spend rounding South America. Around 3 to 5% of global trade, worth hundreds of billions of dollars annually, passes through this 80-kilometer man-made wonder. But recently, the canal has faced a threat no navy can fight: drought. In 2023, Panama recorded its driest year on record. The canal's freshwater lakes, crucial for operating its locks, dropped to critical levels. Authorities cut daily crossings from 36 to as low as 22, while imposing weight limits and surcharges. Global shippers scrambled to reroute or pay millions to skip the queue, as one of the world's most important shortcuts literally began to dry up. Next, Strait of Hormuz. At the mouth of the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz separates Iran to the north from Oman and the UAE to the south. Barely 40 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, it's the only sea route out of the Persian Gulf, meaning almost every drop of oil exported by Gulf nations must pass through here. About 20 million barrels of crude oil and petroleum products transit the strait every single day, roughly 1/5 of total global consumption. That makes it the most strategically sensitive choke point on Earth. In 2019, amid U.S.-Iran tensions, a series of tanker attacks and seizures here caused insurance premiums to skyrocket and crude prices to spike overnight. The U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet, based in Bahrain, now constantly patrols the region because if Hormuz shuts, the world's energy flow shuts with it. Next, Strait of Malacca. Farther east lies the Strait of Malacca, sandwiched between Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula, with Singapore at its southern tip. It links the Indian Ocean to the South China Sea, forming the main artery for trade between Europe, the Middle East, and East Asia. An estimated $3.5 trillion worth of goods pass through the Malacca Strait each year, about 1/3 of global trade. It carries 2/3 of China's maritime trade and 40% of Japan's total energy imports. But at its narrowest, this crucial route is only 1.7 miles wide, tight enough that a grounded ship or an accident could halt traffic for days. In the early 2000s, a surge in piracy turned this strait into one of the most dangerous places for shipping. Attacks reached hundreds per year, forcing joint naval patrols by Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. China, worried about its dependency on this route, has since built alternate land and port networks like the China-Pakistan and China-Myanmar corridors to reduce what it calls the Malacca Dilemma. Next, Turkish Straits. North of the Mediterranean, the Turkish Straits, the Bosporus, and Dardanelles form a narrow link between the Black Sea and the Aegean Sea, flowing through the heart of Istanbul. They're the only maritime outlet for countries like Ukraine, Russia, and Bulgaria, key exporters of grain, oil, and steel. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, shipping through the Black Sea dropped sharply. Ukraine's grain exports stalled, and food prices soared globally, hitting import-reliant countries across Africa and the Middle East. In times of peace, these straits carry about 3% of world trade, but their importance goes far beyond numbers. They're the difference between full ports and empty shelves. Next, Bab el-Mandeb. At the southern mouth of the Red Sea, between Yemen and Djibouti, lies the Bab el-Mandeb, whose name means Gate of Tears. Roughly 10% of all global seaborne trade passes through it, funneling oil and containers between Asia and Europe via the Suez Canal. In late 2023 and early 2024, attacks by Yemen's Houthi rebels on commercial vessels disrupted this vital route. Major shipping giants like Maersk and MSC rerouted around the Cape of Good Hope, adding 3,000 nautical miles and more than 10 days to the Shanghai to Rotterdam route. Freight rates more than doubled, and Egypt, which depends on canal fees, lost a crucial stream of foreign income overnight. Next, Strait of Gibraltar. At Europe's southwest tip, the Strait of Gibraltar separates Spain from Morocco, spanning only about 14 kilometers at its narrowest point. Despite its size, it's one of the world's most vital maritime gateways, connecting the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea. Every year, roughly 100,000 vessels pass through, carrying everything from crude oil and liquefied natural gas to containers packed with consumer goods. It's the main route for ships traveling between Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, and even a brief disruption due to storms, congestion, or navigational hazards can ripple through global shipping schedules, delaying deliveries and spiking costs across multiple continents. Next, Danish Straits. Far to the north, the Danish Straits connect the Baltic Sea to the North Sea, serving as Europe's northern trade gate. They're the only maritime exit for Russia's Baltic ports and for Nordic countries exporting oil, gas, and timber. Following the invasion of Ukraine, NATO stepped up surveillance here, as Russian vessels became a security concern. While it handles a smaller share of global trade, roughly 3 million barrels of oil per day, the Danish Straits remind us that even seemingly calm northern waters can become flashpoints in times of conflict. So, the next time you pick up a phone made in China, a car built in Germany, or coffee roasted in Colombia, remember, it all probably passed through one of these narrow corridors on its way to you. Globalization may feel invisible, but it floats, quite literally, on a handful of waterways. From a single grounded ship to a regional conflict, the smallest choke can squeeze the biggest economies. If your brain feels personally attacked by how fragile global trade really is, hit that like button and subscribe to Faro for more mind-bending explainers every week.